Hello and welcome to a huge UFC 287 preview. My name is Christian Howard and I'm joined today by MMA specialist Manu del Hoyo Sanz. Manu, how are you going?
I'm doing fine, and you? Thanks for having me.
No problems, mate. We're recording this at, it's got to be about 8:30 or 8 o'clock in the morning Melbourne time. What's the time over there in Spain, mate?
Just past midnight. Perfect.
We've lined this up well. What are you doing up at midnight?
I mean, I end up going to bed extremely late almost every day because of betting, and like the things that concern me happen when it is at night here. So in the end, end up going to sleep at 5 a.m. or 6 a.m. most days. So you get used to it. It's no big deal.
Well, at least we're not keeping you up, mate. Look, firstly, thanks for giving us some of your time. It's an incredibly exciting card that we have this weekend. Adesanya, as we know, is about to take on Alex Pereira as the headline fight for 287. He's looking to avenge the loss from last time these two met in the octagon. What has you sort of the most excited about this fight card?
I mean, the main event, obviously. It's a huge fight. Adesanya has been a star in the sport for, I mean, he joined recently, like in 2018 or something like that, but he has become a star very fast. He's one of the 3, 4 biggest names in the UFC. And this is a fight that is massive for his legacy. Like, this is it. It's probably his career defining fight, as much as he has already achieved in the sport with the Robert Whittaker rivalry and all that, and all his defenses. If he loses this fight, it really tarnishes his legacy. He needs a win here, especially being 0-3 against the guy, which is kind of ridiculous because he could perfectly be 3-0, but those fights developed in awkward ways and all against him.
And so what do you see, if you can sort of look into the future a bit, what do you see happening if Addy does win this fight?
If he does win this fight, Adesanya, I think he will continue to be the kingpin at 185. He's very difficult to beat. For the rest of the division, he's a much more difficult fight than Pereira. Pereira has a lot of holes, especially his grappling. I could see him making a couple more defenses or three and then trying to move up and chase a second belt. But he has to get it done here first because he's no young buck either. I think he's 35 or 36 already, right? 34 maybe.
Yeah.
He's getting into age.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really interesting. Now let's get into the sort of the betting side of it. I actually saw a little tweet from you earlier saying that this should get your members and potential members pretty excited. But you're looking at potentially having 2 max bets on the card, sort of without giving away too much insight into the which fights without giving away too much insight into the bets, but which fights are you looking at and why are you eyeing off these 2 max plays?
I'm looking at the main event and then another fight in the main card, a big underdog too. The main event, I think it's poorly lined, honestly. It may sound like a controversial opinion to some people probably, but Adesanya closed for the first fight against Pereira around minus 200 range. And I know he got knocked out in the 5th round, but he covered his price. If you look at that fight, like Adesanya is winning that fight 67% of the time, for sure. Like he's the more active fighter. At the range, it's anybody's fight. He has the grappling upside, the cardio upside, the volume upside. Let's be honest, if round 1 had 10 more seconds, Pereira gets knocked out, this fight doesn't happen, and in a rematch, Adesanya is minus 500. I mean, this happens constantly in MMA, huge market overcorrection. And the line is actually moving in favor of Pereira. It looks like it may flip, so I think Adesanya is going to be a big play here.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome, mate. It promises to be a big one. And there are some really exciting fights, across the whole card, but we'll stick to the top 2 at least initially. Gilbert Burns v George Masvidal. Burns is a very solid favourite at around the $1.20 mark. Do you think that quote is justified?
I think so, yeah. There is like a debate going on right now over MMA Twitter and all that about this price. A lot of people think it's justified. There are people saying things that I I think are crazy. Like this fight is 50-50. That's insane in my opinion. Masvidal is a blown up lightweight. He looks fat at 170. He hasn't won a fight in 4 years. His victories are Ben Askren in the most meme knockout in the history of the UFC and Nate Diaz, who was already done. He has got completely dominated or finished his last 3 fights. And the grappling disparity is just absurd. I'm not sure what people are expecting here to happen, but Barnes is going to take him down and do whatever he wants. There are levels to this. It's not like, oh, this is a good grappler. Gilbert Barnes is an ADCC champion, multiple time gold medalist in Jiu-Jitsu. He's the bigger man, better grappler, better wrestler. I think he's going to slice through him, honestly.
I saw a photo on Twitter of Masvidal walking around with like a bit of a party shirt on, and it was completely unbuttoned, and his gut was sticking out. He was.
Yeah, he's definitely on roids.
That's kind of what I was getting at.
That pick is insane. Yeah.
Oh, that's good. And back to the main event. Izzy's likely to go in, as a slight favourite, around that $1.75, $1.80 mark, depending on where you shop. How do you sort of see that fight playing out, and do you think those odds are about right, or do you see one of the fighters firming up?
Yeah, I think they are off. I would favor Adesanya more. He's the guy that has the ability to make a lot of adjustments here regarding the first fight. With Pereira, you know what you are getting with him. He's a power kickboxer, and his biggest asset as a fighter, aside from his power, he's obviously one of the biggest punchers in the sport. He's just gigantic. I have no idea how this guy is making 185. He walks around at 240, something ridiculous. If he moved up to light heavyweight, he would still be the biggest light heavyweight in the roster. It's absurd. Like, he looked a full division bigger than Adesanya, and Adesanya is not a small middleweight. But he's going to go forward, try to set up his shots, pressure like he did the first fight. But I feel like he kind of caught Adesanya with his last Hura. He was fading big time after the grappling exchanges. Adesanya had the fight won on the cards. I think this is a big market overcorrection. Adesanya has much more avenues than him for this fight. He can propose at least 4 or 5 different game plans here. And if shit goes south, he can always rely on grappling. You know what I mean? Like, as an emergency plan, it worked the first time. So yeah, I would favor Adesanya more than his.
Yeah, that's great insight there, and certainly a steer into what you are thinking for the big one. Also, just wanted to get your thoughts. As we said earlier, it's a big card, and there are some really great fights that we have to look forward to. Is there any other fight that you are particularly looking forward to?
Yeah, I like Christian Rodriguez versus Raul Rosas Jr. This kid fought at Dana White's Contender Series at he had just turned 18 years old, and there was a lot of hype around him. Obviously, they set him up with a fight that was absolute garbage. He won. He almost managed to mess it up, but he won. He got signed to the UFC. He won his debut in highlight fashion against a guy that wasn't very good, and he's a big favorite here again. This kid is an accident waiting to happen. Like, he's a good grappler for 5 minutes, and then he has absolutely nothing on the feet. He takes stupid decisions. Doesn't look like the sharpest knife in the box. You know what I mean? I think he's going to lose spectacularly very soon, and I wouldn't be surprised if it is here, because he's fighting a solid guy.
Yeah, that's awesome, mate. And before we let you go, mate, we need to get the best bet off you. You mentioned earlier that you haven't placed any wagers yourself yet, but we need to get the best bet off you.
Yeah, as you said, I haven't placed anything yet, but I'm looking at Christian Rodriguez, as we just talked. I think him at plus 200 is one of these lines that is going to age spectacularly. Like, Raul Rosas is round 1 submission or bust here, in my opinion. There is no way he covers his price outside of a first round grappling onslaught and he gets a submission, gets the back like he always does. Rodriguez is the better all-around fighter. I think he's going to dominate if this goes past 1 round.
Yeah, what are the odds there, mate? Have you looked into that as of yet?
Yeah, he's around plus 185, plus 190, plus 200. But on fight day, it's probably money is going to be coming in on Rosas Jr. because, you know, Friday, Saturdays were when squares, big money squares get their action, and fan favorites get bet every time. Raul Rosas is probably going to take money, and it's going to probably close wider. But maybe the opposite. I'm not sure.
Yeah, awesome, mate. Well, that's some great insight there, and I think for our listeners, they should be getting involved there prior to the weekend. If Manu's thoughts are anything to go by. But yeah, look, again, thanks for jumping on with me. Promises to be an awesome event. I think there will be plenty of Aussies in Izzy's corner, with his ties to New Zealand. I think we like to claim any sort of good sportsman that comes out of New Zealand, even though it's across the ditch. But yeah, big thanks to Manu. Thanks for your insights, and we look forward to the big weekend, and good luck to all your members.
Well, thank you. Thanks for having me, and it was a pleasure.